How's it going, everybody? My name is Douglas Pitzer, founder of Struggles of Genius, and I'm here with
Stu So Fresh. You can follow me just on Twitter. I know I'm a teacher over at Bitcoin Campus. It's an online crypto academy. I got my own Facebook group, and then I have a YouTube. Trying to go for 1,000 subs right now, on the road to 1,000. Currently about to almost hit the 700 mark, but make sure you subscribe. Appreciate any support.
Okay, and today we're doing something special. We want to talk about non-fungible tokens. Reason being, we're in the year 2023, and we know a lot of artists, a lot of musicians, a lot of people who have intellectual property, they're going through a situation of it being stolen. So we're simply here to tell you about a new digital method for you to keep your intellectual property, keep ownership, keep authenticity, and it's called non-fungible tokens, or what we'll be saying today, NFTs. Right?
Let's do it.
So before we get started, alright, so before we get started, we always have to do a disclaimer. One thing to keep in mind, as Stu has said before, he is an actual professor of cryptocurrency, and I've been in this field for about 4 years. We did heavy research, and it took us a while to actually come together to create this presentation for y'all. All we ask is none of it is stolen, but if you want to share it with the community and actually discuss what you've learned, that's okay. But just keep in mind, this is our intellectual property. Okay? Let's jump right into it. So, today we're going to tackle 3 areas. Everything will be encompassed around 3 parts. Number 1, what actually is an NFT? Number 2, how are NFTs utilized? And number 3, what I love to talk about, why are NFTs so revolutionary? So before we get into that, is there anything that you want to start off just to talk about NFTs, Stu?
Yeah, as far as just like one of the first things I want to say is just actually have a breakdown of NFTs, and let's actually break down that 3-word phrase as far as non-fungible token. Just because that's one thing just in the crypto aspect that a lot of people come into crypto and they read certain things and they kind of skip over certain terms. They don't really have a full concept or understanding of what they're reading, so therefore then when they make investments or they get into like scams for different cryptos, then they say, oh, crypto is a scam, they have bad experiences. Well, for here, we're really trying to educate and give you a fundamental understanding. That way, just as an investor just going forward in the space, you have a fundamental concept of what you're looking for. So just getting into like non-fungible tokens, let's just break down the word as far as fungible. First, fungible is talked about as being replaceable. So basically, if something spills, let's say a can of salsa spills over on aisle 8, well, they can replace it with another can of salsa. So then also when it comes to the token aspect, token is just basically like a crypto asset. It's just an asset to where you can be able to transfer that back into fiat, back into real cash. So they have what you call DeFi tokens or governance tokens or even gaming tokens. And these gaming tokens or just whatever's on space, you can take those gaming tokens and be able to transfer it back into fiat. They call it like play to earn. But that's a different topic for a different day. Okay. But just breaking down that full term is as far as having a non-fungible, so it's an irreplaceable digital asset. And that's just the fundamental root just going forward.
Okay, I love it, I love it. So let's jump actually into it first. The creation of NFTs. So before we actually get into the creation of NFTs, I'm going to ask someone, do you actually own any NFTs? You do not? Okay. How do you feel when you hear NFTs, when you hear people starting to talk about NFTs more? Do they scare you? Is it like something you're interested in learning more about? What do you feel about it?
It's definitely something I'm interested in learning more about. No experience besides just conversation with Jared, Stu, Jared. But definitely interested in learning more.
Excellent, excellent. And would you consider yourself an artist, musician, anything in the area of artistry?
Yeah, definitely a musician.
So this is perfect for you. This is perfect for you. Okay. How long have NFTs been around? We really have started talking about NFTs, I would say, the past 3 or 4 years, as if they just popped up. But the first NFT that I researched and discovered was actually in 2012. It was called the Color Coins. We're not going to go into a bunch of detail of what it did, etc., but it followed the guidelines of what are NFTs, non-fungible tokens. It was the first NFT that allowed ownership. Next, we moved over to what the first real, it's debatable, NFT is, and it's called Quantum. Now, once again, we're not going to go into heavy depth about it, but this was considered the first real NFT because it was on a blockchain. Blockchains are very revolutionary. We'll go into those a little bit, but right now we're just going to say these NFTs, which is your digital property, operate on what's called blockchains. And that's the platform, that's the foundation that makes them verifiable, accountable, etc. Okay? Anything you want to add before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, that was actually news to me as far as just like different NFTs. I know my first experience as far as looking at, I know crypto kitties, but that came with Ethereum, and then that came with a lot of other prevalent NFTs that we know today. But we'll get into that a little bit later.
Right. So one thing to keep in mind, NFTs are officially a decade in. But we keep saying this word NFTs, non-fungible tokens. What are NFTs? So we'll give you 3 definitions. They kind of go more and more complex per se. The first one we'll say is just a digital item on a ledger. Now, when we talk about ledgers, just think of a record book that writes down the information of transactions. An NFT is an item that's digital on a digital ledger, okay? Another way to talk about it, the actual term we say is a non-fungible token, and Stu has broken that down. But instead of using this complex, the unique cryptographic token, etc., Stu, give them a simple definition of an NFT.
I would say NFT is a digital asset that's in the ever-growing digital world. Everything that we're going towards a digital world, whether it's coming in the metaverse, or Zoom calls, or even just watching us do this video, everything is going digital. And having digital assets is going to be just as valuable as just having physical assets.
Correct.
So even with like the digital item on the ledger, I just want to touch on just like every NFT has this unique policy ID to where you can actually scan that on whatever blockchain. And the reason that's important is because that's a unique asset policy ID into itself that can't be duplicated or manipulated. So it's the policy ID behind the picture. It's not the picture that gets the representation. It's just the policy ID and the technology behind it.
I love it. And so let's break it down one step further. You said you're a musician. How many songs do you think you have?
Probably 30.
Okay, 30.
Someone attached to it, I would say.
Would you say they're on a CD?
Not published.
Okay.
So
That's why NFTs are so revolutionary. What's stopping this publication right now?
just me being a perfectionist and just
Okay.
just not putting it out.
Okay, I like that. So it's a personal reason right now.
Yeah.
But would you say there might be some stepping stones once you get to that process of actually trying to publish it out to the masses?
Sure.
Okay. Well, the NFT, keep in mind your music is digital. We're going to show you another route for publishing your music.
Okay.
Another thing to keep in mind, of these 30 songs, once you publish them and they're out to the masses, of those 30 songs, once published, how many of those songs will you maintain 100% ownership of?
I would assume all of them.
You assume all of them? Okay, so I was going to say, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I like to hear that. You keep your royalties?
I mean, at this point, there's nothing really, like I said, nothing published, nothing really out there like that. So I don't
Right.
have anything, any legal, anything.
Right, well, once we get into that, will you still be able to maintain 100%?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, glad to hear that. I'm going to show you another method of doing that.
Okay.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's actually talk about the growth of NFTs. What made these NFTs grow over time? We know they started around 2013, but they really took off in 2017 with the cryptocurrency called CryptoPunk. Are you familiar with CryptoPunk?
Yeah, sure.
I figured you were. Yeah, CryptoPunk was kind of that first one where we call the OG NFT art collectors. They caught on early, they got into the market early, and some of them are still benefiting from it today because they got it at such an early stage. But next, as you know, stuff began to grow through 2020. It really started to begin being popular because people were inside, COVID was taking place, so a lot more people were on computers. And then when we talk about 2023 today, Stu, what would you say about the growth of NFTs, or just where are they at today?
NFTs have definitely grown a lot since then, and just with like the crypto punks, as far as you did get in early, you definitely cash out at a way higher price. Some of these NFTs are worth like 1.1, 2, 3, 4, $5 million
Crazy.
just for one NFT. And it's just crazy, just the amount of financial gains you be able to benefit and access all these NFTs. But then also, just with the growth of NFTs, that's expanding on many other blockchains too. So Ethereum is just one blockchain, for example, but you got other ones like Binance, Cardano, you got even layer 2 blockchains and different things. But that's kind of just going into different depth. I ain't gonna go too deep in that today, but for simply just talk about just the aspect of NFTs, I just feel like NFTs is just gonna become so revolutionary. And as far as like a lot of the technology and just the growth of NFTs, it went from art to like utility based. Utility based is just basically giving you an ROI, return on your investment, when you just buy NFT, whether that's through passive income, whether that's through, as far as digital real world assets, goods, representations. So there's a lot of different things that has grown just from an RPFP.
I love it. Okay, let's keep it going. So now we're talking about NFTs today. He just gave us a wrap up of how today they're popular, things to look at today. But what I want you to keep in mind, when we're talking about NFTs, another word we could use is just a digital item. A lot of things that we interact with today are digitized. The benefit of NFTs, we are currently only using 4% of its utility, which means there are still masses of areas of utilization that we're not even capitalizing on yet because no one's done it yet. So the reason we're trying to introduce people to NFTs is so you can be the person to come up with that first idea of how to capitalize your music through this NFT marketplace. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's avenues through NFTs that are not available through companies, record deals, all those old styles. There's new methods to where you are everything yourself today. Okay? And so we're just introducing. But as we're jumping into NFTs today, there's a habit right now where people are seeing stuff become popular and they're buying it. We can't have that. So there's a couple definitions on here. We just want to make sure you hear them and you know what they mean. Is it kind of a green flag or a red flag, So Stu, I'll say the word and you tell me, what should we do when we hear that word associated with the NFT? A meme.
As far as just like meme NFTs, that's something to know that meme, and essentially it doesn't do anything enhancedly. So it doesn't have any type of use case, so there's everything. It's just kind of there. It's kind of like more so like a gimmick. So like the best example is just like, it's not an NFT related, but just with like Dogecoin or Shiba Inu or different things. But also, just because it necessarily doesn't do anything, doesn't mean there's not money opportunities with that NFT. Just because sometimes the market will go up in price with an NFT, that person might not make no sense to me personally. Right. But if the money's over there, then my money's going over there as well because I want to make gains and profit off that. So just what means, just essentially, it just has no use case.
Correct. And I'll give you an example of how people are utilizing meme coins. You have a CD, you have music, you have a cover. You have the front cover of your CD. People are turning their front covers into NFTs. So now people are purchasing the album cover and they're purchasing the CDs or the tracks. So you have now made multiple streams of income from that one CD. Another one, pump and dump. What is that?
As far as pump and dump, I would say just with different NFT projects, when you begin to like research NFT projects and getting into different aspects, you kind of get to know like the founder, the people on the team, the staff, all those different type of things. And let's say a project has a lot of hype, and then for example, let's say just doing research, somebody found out that this founder was doing illegal activity through his job in a prior business. Well, that could cause FUD, like fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which amongst it can spread across like the entire blockchain, and people could just be like, you know what? I actually ain't going, I'm gonna sell off on this NFT. I'm gonna go ahead and dump the price of just anything. Catalyst News was gonna drive price and also drive price down. So Catalyst News is everything. What's the news behind the project? Latest updates. How's the founders? Because you gotta look at these things as like Web3 startups. They're not established businesses. They're up and coming businesses that we can crowdfund as a source globally, and to be able to get a return on investment as an investor jumping in early.
That's it. And so keeping in mind what he's saying, some of these pump and dumps you do have to be careful. They'll go down. But also keep in mind, just because your NFT is on the right blockchain, that can make the value of your NFT rise if the value of that blockchain rises. So it's all about just looking at all the utility that you can use off of one CD, one album that has not been, wow, I've never been an artist. Have you been able to use all these advantages in music before?
All the advantages as far as.
Yes, that you have in NFTs?
No.
I didn't think so. Okay, I just want to make sure because I'm not an artist. I want to make sure these are revolutionary new things. And so something we always say is from an individual named 19 Keys, interact with the opportunity. Don't react to success. Oftentimes we wait till the stock is going up to try to invest. That's a guaranteed way to take a loss. So let's get into that. All right, but now, as I just kind of already jumped into, how do you utilize these NFTs? So when we say NFTs for you, y'all, I just want y'all to keep in mind, we're talking about your music. We're talking about your album covers. We're talking about that stuff that is your intellectual property. And we, in the past, had to be so close. It had to be so close to us because you didn't want people to steal it. You didn't want people to copy it. You didn't want it to be duplicated. NFTs are changing that. We now have a way to utilize this stuff worldwide, and if